It's no surprise that immigration comes into the U.S. in large numbers nearly every day. But there's a recent find on the U.S.-Mexico border that's about to shake up everything we know about immigration. Brace yourself for a remarkable story that's going to make you rethink everything you thought you understood about the border between the U.S. and Mexico. Let's get into it. On January 22nd, 2024, the Supreme Court made a significant ruling allowing the Department of Homeland Security's Border Patrol agents to remove the concertina wires set up by the Texas National Guard and Department of Public Safety along the Rio Grande at Shelby Park in Eagle Pass, Texas. This decision aimed to empower federal agents to enforce immigration laws and uphold border security. However, Governor Abbott and Texas took a defiant stance, refusing to comply with the Supreme Court's order. They continued to block access to Shelby Park for U.S. Border Patrol agents, hindering their efforts to enforce federal immigration law. Adding to the tension, Texas National Guard and DPS officers installed new concertina wire within Shelby Park and its surroundings, worsening the situation. To grasp the significance of this defiance, we need to delve into the history and symbolism of Shelby Park. In the 1980s, the Eagle Pass City Council controversially named the park after former Confederate General Joseph Orville Shelby. Some local historians opposed this decision, advocating for the park to honor Shelby's Confederate soldiers who fled to Mexico after the Civil War's end. General Shelby and his troops passed through Eagle Pass, burying their Confederate flag in the Rio Grande, leading to the area being dubbed the Graveyard of the Confederacy. The park's renaming has long sparked debate, now escalating into a constitutional crisis between Texas Republicans and the federal government. When the Supreme Court ruling was announced, former President Donald J. Trump advised Republican senators and representatives not to support proposed bipartisan legislation aimed at reforming the American immigration laws. His goal was crystal clear: to prevent President Joe Biden from scoring a major policy win before the next presidential election. This move triggered a political showdown with significant consequences on the horizon. Most Republican governors, except Vermont, publicly backed Governor Abbott's tough stance against President Biden's immigration enforcement efforts. They supported Abbott's use of controversial methods like concertina wire and marine buoys to fortify the border. In response, U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson cautioned against pushing through immigration reforms now, suggesting it would be better to wait until Trump's potential return to power in November 2024. This stance hinted at the Republican strategy of using immigration as a central issue in the upcoming election. However, not every Republican was in agreement with this approach. U.S. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell and Senator Mitt Romney voiced their opposition to Trump's plea to quash any bipartisan immigration reform proposals. They acknowledged the chance for a historic overhaul of the American immigration system and believed that reducing immigration to a mere campaign issue would squander this opportunity. President Joe Biden took a different task, calling out the Republicans' tactics. He agreed to compromise on major asylum and parole matters within the immigration system in return for funding border security, aiding Ukraine, and supporting Israel. Biden's maneuver exposed the Republicans' lack of genuine interest in reforming immigration. Instead, they seem to be exploiting it for political gains in the upcoming elections. Meanwhile, as this political tug-of-war continues, the residents of Eagle Pass are caught up in the middle. Their safety and well-being have been jeopardized as their town has become a casualty in this larger political showdown. With the inevitable demographic changes sweeping the nation, it's crucial to overhaul the laws to ensure equitable representation and safeguard the rights of all individuals. In May of 2023, Governor Abbott in Texas took control of Shelby Park after Eagle Pass mayor signed a criminal trespass affidavit giving DPS and the Texas National Guard the authority to arrest undocumented immigrants seeking asylum there, claiming it as private property. Although the affidavit faced public backlash and was later rescinded by the city council, it was renewed in September 2023 with minor changes. Recognizing the seriousness of the situation, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security sent a letter to Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton on January 25, 2024, urging Texas to grant full access to Shelby Park to U.S. Border Patrol agents by January 26, 2024. Yet, Governor Abbott in Texas, along with other Republican-controlled states and former President Trump, seem willing to risk a constitutional crisis for political gain. They appear to overlook the historical significance of Shelby Park and the potential fallout of their actions. As tensions escalate between the U.S. government and Texas, the situation at the U.S.-Mexico border in Eagle Pass, Texas, has grabbed national attention. Despite the Supreme Court's ruling, Texas National Guard soldiers and DPS officers continue to block access to Shelby Park, impeding federal immigration law enforcement and raising concerns about border security. Inside the park, the installation of new razor wire by the Texas National Guard and DPS officers has sparked controversy and drawn criticism for its perceived cruelty. Texas's refusal to comply with the Supreme Court sets a dangerous precedent, challenging federal authority and undermining the rule of law. The ramifications of this defiance extend beyond Texas, with other Republican-led states backing Abbott's tough stance on immigration enforcement. The takeover of Shelby Park by Texas represents a significant escalation in the attempts to hinder Border Patrol's operations along the border. This move has sparked concerns about the extent of Texas's authority and its implications for federal immigration control. Adding to the tension, Texas officials recently barred Border Patrol boats from patrolling the area, intensifying the standoff and limiting Border Patrol's ability to monitor and intercept migrants crossing the Rio Grande. They're denying entry to Border Patrol agents to do our duties, revealed a federal official speaking anonymously. This action has raised questions about the limits of Texas's authority over the federal government, highlighting the unprecedented nature of the situation. The standoff's gravity led the Justice Department to submit a report to the Supreme Court detailing Texas's alarming actions. The report includes testimony and photos demonstrating Texas's efforts to block federal agents from accessing around 2.5 miles of the U.S.-Mexico border. According to the Justice Department, Texas deployed armed guardsmen and vehicles to prevent Border Patrol and Federal National Guard soldiers from accessing this vital border stretch. However, the White House has strongly criticized Texas's actions, accusing Governor Abbott of attempting to politicize the border situation. White House spokesperson Angelo Fernandez condemned Abbott's extreme political maneuvers, stating that they not only dehumanize people, but also create additional challenges and dangers for Border Patrol agents in performing their duties. The seizure of Shelby Park represents the latest move in a series of confrontations between Texas state authorities and the federal government over immigration policy. Governor Abbott has implemented various measures to address the migrant influx, such as transporting large numbers of migrants to cities led by Democrats, apprehending migrant adults for trespassing, and reinforcing the Rio Grande banks with razor wire and floating barriers. Abbott's approval of SB 4, a law enabling Texas law enforcement to arrest, detain, and prosecute migrants for illegally entering the country, has further escalated tensions between the state and federal authorities. This legislation, which duplicates a federal offense, faces legal challenges from both the Justice Department and civil rights organizations. In an affidavit submitted to the Supreme Court, Robert Danley, a senior Customs and Border Protection official in Eagle Pass, detailed the repercussions of Texas's actions. Danley emphasized that Texas's measures were hindering Border Patrol operations along the Rio Grande, impeding their ability to manage migrant flows, including those in distress. He also noted that the seizure of Shelby Park had severely diminished Border Patrol surveillance capacity in the area, posing significant safety risks for migrants and agents alike. As a result, Border Patrol is now forced to process migrants near a busy highway, where the limited space heightens the risk of traffic-related accidents for migrants and agents. The situation has reached a critical juncture, with Texas officials openly expressing their opposition to Border Patrol's authority to arrest, process, or relocate migrants from the designated area. Texas's actions in obstructing federal Border Patrol access to Shelby Park and controlling the U.S.-Mexico border have profound and wide-ranging implications. This bold move has rocked the nation, sparking widespread concerns about the state's power over immigration and the federal government's capability to secure the border. One immediate fallout of Texas's actions is the hindrance of Border Patrol's operations by taking control of Shelby Park, patrolled by the Texas National Guard. Border Patrol agents are barred from the usual hotspot where migrants illegally cross the Rio Grande. This obstacle severely curtails the capacity to catch and process migrants, putting a strain on border security efforts. The takeover of Shelby Park has dealt a heavy blow to Border Patrol surveillance efforts. According to Robert Dannell, a high-ranking official with Customs and Border Protection in Eagle Pass, the seizure of the park has slashed Border Patrol surveillance capacity by a whopping 90%. This sharp decline not only jeopardizes the safety of migrants, but also puts Border Patrol agents in harm's way. With limited surveillance, Border Patrol is left no choice but to process migrants near a bustling highway, heightening the risk of accidents for everyone involved. The cramped conditions and fast-moving traffic on the highway create a perilous situation that could have been avoided if Texas hadn't wrested control of Shelby Park. The Justice Department in its report to the Supreme Court, contends that Texas's actions signify a significant escalation in the state's efforts to hinder Border Patrol's border monitoring and patrolling activities. By deploying armed guardsmen and vehicles to block federal agents' access, Texas is essentially obstructing the federal government's ability to enforce immigration laws and handle emergencies effectively. That wraps up our discussion for today. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the ongoing situation. Share your views in the comments section below. Don't forget to check out the suggested videos on your screen for more content like this. And if you enjoyed the video, don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for joining us.